Welcome to LIVEDAF, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Eruvin Daf Vav, on the bottom of Hayim and Beis, at the two dots, 2 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Chanan bar Rava, Amar Rav. He taught us in the name of Rav as follows: Mavi shenifratz. We have a Mavi, the alleyway which is leading into Sarabim, where the Chacham required one to place a lechi, a side post, or a kaira, a crossbeam above the entranceway, to separate the Mavi from Sarabim and allow carrying within it. What if the Mavi's wall was breached? Mavi shenifratz. Can one still carry in this Mavi? Or do we say that the walls have become bottle and the carrying of the Mavi is disallowed? So it depends how large a gap it is. Mitzida be'eser. If the breach occurred on the side of the Mavi, so it occurred in the wall which is running alongside the length of the Mavi, be'eser. As long as it's no larger than 10 amos, it is still considered to be like a Pesach, like a entranceway to the Mavi, and the Mechitza is still valid. As we know, we learned it several times, that a hole in the wall does not negate, does not mevatel the wall, unless that opening is larger than 10 amos. So we apply the general concept of Mechitzas to the Mechitza of the Mavi as well. But that's only if it occurs on the side of the Mavi. Meiraishai. If this pirza, this breach occurred at the head of the Mavi, meaning you have the long Mavi leading to Sarabim, and at the entranceway they built a wall which partially blocked that entranceway, so that wall, Meiraishai, that wall was breached, then it is only kasher, bedalad, only up until 4 tfachim. If that hole is 4 tfachim in width, we consider this Mavi to be nifratz, exposed, the mechitza has been negated, and one can no longer carry the Mavi. Now Tosfos points out that the numbers 4 and 10 are a bit different, because 4 means that if it is 4, then it's already a problem, because 4 is the minimum size of a Pesach. So once you've reached 4, you've created an opening. Whereas when we speak about 10, mitzide be'eser, what he meant to say was up until 10 you're still okay, including 10. Only if you go past 10, that's already beyond the shiur of a Pesach, and therefore is considered to be nifratz, breached, and the mechitza is batal. So the shiur of a Pesach is from 4 until 10. So again, according to this view of Rav, if the pirza took place on the side of the Mavi, you have up until 10, including 10. If it took place meiraishai, that's where you have the gap, then you only have up until 4, not including 4. Says more, what difference does it make where it was breached? Why, when it happened on the side of the Mavi, you say, okay, up until 10 amos you're okay. Don't pischu, because you view it merely as an entranceway. You don't say the mechitza fell apart. It's an entranceway to the Mavi, because it's still within the shiur of a Pesach. Likewise, when the pirza occurred at the head of the Mavi, name a pischu. There as well, we should treat it like a door, like an entranceway to the Mavi. So even if it's 4 tfachim in size, why does it negate the Mavi? Why is it mevatel the mechitzas? Why can't we simply treat it like an entranceway? Amar Rav Huna Veidav Yeshua was speaking in a case nifras bekeren zavis. When he says meiroshi bedalit, he meant to say that this pirza was applied to the corner of the Mavi, where the 2 walls meet. That's not a place to make an entranceway. The pischa bekeren zavis le'avdi inshi. People don't generally form an entranceway where 2 walls meet. It's not a convenient place to make an entrance. Perhaps it negates the structure. It weakens the walls which are meant to support each other. In any case, that's not an appropriate place for a Pesach. So if this Mavi was breached at the corner and it's 4 tfachim in width, that's not called a Pesach, and it negates the mechitzas, mevatel mechitza of the Mavi, and this allows carrying within it. But when he said mitzide be'eser, he simply meant that anywhere else, meaning as long as it's not at the corner, then as long as the pirza is 10 amos or less, certainly it's considered to be a Pesach, and the Mavi is still kosher, one can carry within this Mavi. So that's the shita of Rav Chanan bar Rava, the name of Rav. V'chein v'Rav Huna Amar. Now we have an opposing view. He says, Echad zeh ve'echad zeh ba'arba. Whether the pirza was applied to the corner, or even if it's the middle of the wall. it is only kosher if it's up to 4 tefachim. And once you reach that shiur of 4 tefachim, that disallows carrying the mavi. Why? Because when we have another way out of the mavi, that substitutes, that takes the place, perhaps, of the Pesach, of that grand entrance to the mavi. People will be inclined to take the short way out of mavi, so out of convenience. Perhaps sometimes they'll opt to use this doorway off to the side instead of using the main entranceway to the mavi. So it will be no longer considered the Pesach HaMavi. And therefore it renders the koira or the lechi, which were placed at that entrance, it renders them obsolete. That kind of was, place a hecker, something which calls attention. Place it at the entranceway to the mavi. But if that grand entranceway is no longer really considered to be the Pesach HaMavi, because there's an alternate route, perhaps an easier way out, so it's mevatel, the heter of the lecha the koira. So that's the svar of Rav Huna. Therefore he says, once there's a pirza, a breach, which is 4 tefachim in width, which has a halachic status as a Pesach, so that forms an alternate way to exit the mavi into Rosh Hashanah, and therefore that takes the place of the original Pesach and negates the lecha v'koira, are considered to have been deactivated. V'chein amalei Rav Huna l'Rav Chana bar Rava. And also Rav Huna, likewise, Rav Huna actually told Rav Chana bar Rava, don't disagree with me, meaning you're quoting Rav's opinion as though he's saying that you have until Tan Amis to be good. Don't disagree with me, because I maintain the Rav himself, I have a right, the Rav himself actually held, like me, held that if the breach has reached 4 tefachim, that invalidates the heter of the mavi. From a story, the Rav Ikl the Macharya, Rav visited this town of the Macharya, the Avad of the Kavasi, and he ruled like my shita. He told them that if the breach in the mavi is 4 tefachim wide, that prohibits carrying the mavi. So you see the Rav himself, who you are quoting as though he holds that you have up until 10 amis, Rav himself, paskin in this town of the Macharya, that you only have up until 4 tefachim. Amar lei. So Rav Chana responded, no, truthfully Rav himself holds that if it's up until 10 amis, the mavi is still valid, the koira and the lecha is still valid. Why was Rav very machmer in this town? Amalei Rav bika matzah. He found this open, exposed valley of fields. V'gadav a geder, and therefore he enacted a geder. He built a fence to safeguard the field. Let's take a look at Rashi. So it's 5 lines from the top, beginning with the words bika matzah. What happened was Rav found an exposed valley. What he meant to say was Ami haratzim hayu. They were unlearned people, mezalzel with mitzvahs, and were not too meticulous. They were lax in their observance of mitzvahs. And therefore, you need to make a chumrah to avoid confusion, to prevent them from coming to do an isser. So he was very machmer, and he went a step back. Then the actual halacha, v'hechmer aleim, lasi siyag, to create this fence, la'achikim navera, to distance them from an avera, kadam agoyda bika, which is like a person who erects a fence around the valley bika prutza, this unexposed valley of field, a shemra to safeguard it. So Rav Chana maintains that in reality Rav really holds that as long as this opening, this gap is 10 amas or less, you're still okay, because we applied the dinim of mechitza to the wall of the mavi as well. Rav was machmer in that case for a specific reason. This is in contrast to Rav Huna holds that as long as a Pesach was formed, even the smallest size Pesach, even 4 tefachim, that is also sufficient to negate the heter of the mavi, as we explained, because Rav Huna focuses on the usage of the mavi, the traffic of the mavi. So although, as far as the mechitza is concerned, it's still standing, still intact, as long as it wasn't breached with a pirza of more than 10 amis. But since the mavi here is in a traffic area, and the lecha v'koira meant to address the traffic and to bring out, to highlight the difference between the mavi and the shusarabim, so we focus on the usage of the mavi. And if people are inclined to exit the mavi using this convenient passageway, which was created through this pirza, then that makes the mavi asa, as we explained, since it forms an alternate route, and it negates the original Pesach. Omar Rav Nachmar Yitzchak, Kavasei Rav Huna Mistavra. It actually seems that Rav Huna's opinion Rav Huna, who tells us that Rav himself holds that a pirza, which is dal tfachim, is sufficient to be oiser the mavi, it appears that that version is actually correct. Because we find elsewhere that Rav seems to hold that way. The Itma, as we learned, mavi akum, this alleyway which was bent, a crooked alleyway. Rav Amar Terasa Kemafulish. Rav says has a din of an exposed alleyway, an open alleyway. Ushmul Amar Terasa Kesasim. Has a din like a contained alleyway. Let's take a look at Rashi, who explains this in great detail. 9 lines from the top. Mavi Akum. So we have a mavi, an alleyway which is bent. Ushnei Psachav Lushas Rabim Kazeh. So we have this diagram in Rashi. So you see you have a Rishus Rabim on the bottom, you have another Rishus Rabim on the left side, and we have a mavi, an alleyway, which leads the pedestrians from one Rishus Rabim to the other. So it's an access route from one Rishus Rabim to the other. It's open on both ends of Rishus Rabim. Now we know that all this discussion regarding Lechi V'Koira, which allows carrying in the mavi, only applies to a mavi sasam, a contained mavi, as Rashi explained for us on Daf Beis Amud Aleph. So mavi sasam is described as a place which is surrounded by 3 mechitzes. So here's the Rishus Rabim. You have a U-shaped mavi, a U-shaped alleyway. So you have 3 mechitzes. The fourth side is open to Rishus Rabim. So Minat Torah, this place is fully contained. It's Rishus HaYachad. The Rabbanah, they required that separateness, that lechi, that koira, to make that hefsek between Rishus Rabim and the mavi. That's a mavi sasam. A mavi foolish, on the other hand, is an open-ended mavi, which only has 2 walls running alongside it, and it's open on both sides of Rishus Rabim. That's not a Rishus HaYachad, that's considered a karmelis. It's in between Rishus HaYachad and Rishus Rabim. Now, in order to allow carrying within this mavi, a lechi v'koira not sufficient, because it's open, it's exposed on both ends. It needs to close off one side to make it into a mavi sasam. How does he close it off? For instance, by making a tzuras pesach, which is a formation of a doorway. It has a tzura of a doorway, 2 posts on the sides, 1 post on top. That's how he closes off at least one side, and then it is regarded as a mavi sasam, and he can add merely a lechi or kur on the other side to allow tiltal within this mavi. So there are 2 categories, mavi sasam and mavi mefulish. What about this picture here, which is nor this nor that? On the one hand, it's running from one Rishus Rabim to the other, so it appears like a mavi mefulish because it's open-ended, it's exposed, it's open on both sides of Rishus Rabim. On the other hand, perhaps we should view it like a closed mavi, because when one enters one side of the mavi and he continues straight, what happens? He bumps into the wall straight ahead. So it's not really directly exposed to Rishus Rabim. He needs to make a left turn at a 9-degree angle, a sharp turn, to get to the other Rishus Rabim. So it's an indirect access to Rishus Rabim. So that's the machlekes here. Rav says this is considered to be a mavi foolish. It's open-ended, because at the end of the day, it's leading from one Rishus Rabim to the other, and the public uses it in this manner. So although it's an indirect access, it's still considered to be open-ended, and one must erect an additional adjustment. For instance, the tzuras pesach, which will be placed right in the middle, right where the 2 parts of the mavi join together, right at that sharp turn there, at the right angle. He places the tzuras pesach there to cut off the mavi, to make it enclosed on 3 sides, and then he can place a lecha v'koira near the entranceway to Rishus Rabim. That's Rav's opinion. Shmuel says no. It's an indirect access to Rishus Rabim. Let's view each side of this mavi akum like a separate entity. Each one is a closed mavi. It's a mavi sasam. Therefore, according to Shmuel, we don't need to make anything inside that mavi. We treat it like a mavi sasam, and therefore he merely places a lechi or a koira at the entranceway to the mavi, near each side, near each one of the entranceways. So let's see Rashi inside. Again, the words mavi akum ushnei psachal Rishus Rabim kazeh has both of its ends open to Rishus Rabim, just as in this picture. So Rav says to Rashi, it's foolish. Umavi hamafulish Rishus Rabim, a mavi which is open, exposed to Rishus Rabim, so it's open on both ends to Rishus Rabim tzorach tzuras pesach mikan v'lecha yokar mikan. So one needs to close that mavi up by placing a tzuras pesach on one side, on one end of that exposed mavi, and that allows him to place a lechi or a koira on the other side, just like it would be a mavi sas. Kidl Kaman, as the Gemara soon will elaborate. Avzeh, likewise in this case, Tzorach l'shnei psachav, l'tzad l'shus harabim, lechi akira, lechi l'chol ruach. So in this case, you're going to place a lechi or a kira at both entranceways to Shus harabim, and in addition to that, you need to close off that mavi ubakmu misay, right at that bend. Tzorach tzuras pesach. You need to make it tzuras pesach to close it, which is it's regarded like as though it's another wall there, which closes up and separates the two mavis as though it would be a wall. The pilush mefulish lechaver, because the fact that it's open, one mavi is open to his friend. Havek mefulish l'sarabim, it is considered as though he's wide open and exposed to Shusarabim. So that's Rav's opinion. He considers this to be a mavi mefulish. Shmuel, on the other hand, says no. Tayrasa kisasam. We regard it as a closed mavi. Ve'en tzorach bakum misay klum. Right at that bend, you don't need to place anything. Ella, rather, elu oisen lechi lepischon. So the residents of this mavi, of this side, they simply place a lechi at their entranceway to Shusarabim. And the same thing for the fellows on the other side. Ve'elu oisen lechi lepischon delematzrechin and tzuras haPesach. Ella lepsachim hamafaloshim. Because Shmuel maintains Eitzer Pesach is only needed when it's a true Mavi Amafulish. When the entranceway to Rosh Hashanah, both ends are directly opposite each other, it's considered to be a direct access from one Rosh Hashanah through the Mavi over to the other Rosh Hashanah. But if they're indirect, they're one not opposite the other, you're going in this way, you need to make a 90-degree turn, a sharp turn over to the left side. That's not considered to be a direct access route from one Rosh Hashanah to the other, so we regard this alleyway as a closed alleyway. And all we need is a lechi or kira at the entranceway. Says the Gemara. So again, the word the itmar, as we learned. Mavoy akum, regarding this bent mavi, Rav Amar Tarasakim Afulos, we treat it like an exposed mavi, Shmuel Amar Tarasak Isasa. We treat it like a closed mavi. Says, well, let's analyze the picture here. What are we speaking? How wide is that turn, that 90-degree turn? The space between both alleyways here. How wide is it? Shall we say that it's larger than 10? It's wider than 10 amos? If you say it's so wide, can Shmuel indeed say that we regard this as a mavi sasam? Certainly not, because if it's such a wide opening from one side of the mavi to the other, then how could Shmuel maintain that it's a closed mavi? We should regard this whole thing as one big mavi, due to that large gap between both mavis, between both alleyways, larger than 10. That's considered to be a pirza. There's no mechitza, there's no entranceway. It's so big, it meshes into one. Elalav be'eser, apparently, we're speaking about a gap there, which is merely 10 amos or less. So therefore, Shmuel maintains it's small enough to be considered like a doorway, like an entranceway. And these two alleyways, the two sides of this crooked alleyway, are regarded as two separate entities, which are merely open one to the other, and therefore each one separately could be considered a closed mavi, which is merely open to just Ram on one side. So now, once we've established that the bend, the place where the two mavais are joining, is merely 10 amos or less in width, let's take a look at Rav's sheet. Rav says, Rav says that the alleyway here is considered to be an open, exposed alleyway running from one Rosh Hashanah to the other. Alma, apparently he holds, since there's that large entranceway between one mavi to the other, which is 4 tfachim or greater, is considered to be open and exposed and breached. And therefore, the mavi here is treated like as though it's one big mavi, because it's all open. There's nothing separating the two sides of the mavi. Alma pirtzas mavi mitzida b'dal. Apparently, Rav indeed holds that if there's a pirza, there's a breach alongside the wall of a mavi, as long as it reaches the shiur of dalat tfachim, which is considered to be a pesach, we regard this mavi as though it's open, it's exposed, it's been breached. It allows the traffic through it, and therefore, as we explained earlier, negates the original entranceway to the mavi. This has become the sort of new entranceway due to its size, because it's considered to be a pesach. And that explains why, in this case, Rav considers the mavi as a mavi mefulash. Due to that large space, in the area where the two sides of this bent mavi meet each other. So it's considered to be an open mavi, a breached mavi. And therefore we regard each side of this mavi, akum, as though it's fully exposed to Shesarabim. It's open, it's paritz, due to that large gap. So Rav Huna brings a raya from this halacha to his opinion of Rav. We see from here, the Rav considers an opening merely the size of 4 tefachim, like a piritza, as though the mavi has been exposed to the elements. Says the Gemara, how's Rav Chanan going to respond? Because he maintains the Rav holds that only if it's 10 amas, if it's more than 10 amas is a problem. So why in this case of the mavi akum is it considered to be a foolish, exposed and open? For Rav Chanan bar Rava, he's going to respond and say, Shani Hasam, the case of the mavi akum is entirely different than the case we're discussing here. Why? The kabaki bar Rabim, because the public is walking through it, is using this mavi as an access route to go over from one Rosh Hashanah to the other. So since it's a publicly traveled route, indeed we consider this mavi as though it's exposed and open to Rosh Hashanah. The fact that in reality the public is using it. So it's not just due to the size of the gap, it's due to the fact that practically speaking, the rabbin traversed this area, the foot traffic, a bekeya through this mavi to go from one Rosh Hashanah to the other. Therefore, we consider this thing to be fully open, exposed to Shesarabim. We don't consider this to be a contained mavi due to the traffic flow. However, in the case that we discussed earlier, we began our Gemara with a mavi shenifretz mitzidai. Public are not making use of this new exit. Rashi says we're speaking about that right outside this breach. It's a makom mituna full of mud. It's not a convenient place to walk, so it's not actually being used by the rabbim. And therefore, since there's no traffic going through it, I maintain, Rav Chanan says, I maintain, that just the mere fact that it potentially can be used as a Pesach, that's irrelevant, doesn't affect the status of the mavi. As long as the gap isn't greater than 10 amis, where certainly it will affect the status of the mechitza, and will consider to be the mechitza to be batal. Says the Gemara, okay. So apparently the discussion before, in the beginning of the Gemara, was regarding a place where the rabbin was not Bikeya. Mechlal Rav Huna Savar, apparently Rav Huna says that even in that case, if the gap is merely 4 tefachim in width, is a problem. Mechlal Rav Huna Savar, Afagav Baki Barabim, even though there's no public which is accessing this exit way, nevertheless he regards the Pesach to be large, too large, and therefore he says the mavi cannot be used any longer. Why is it different than Rav Amir Rasi's halacha that we learned yesterday in Daf Yomi and Aleph, that if a mavi was breached alongside it, they told us as long as it's not greater than 10 amis, you can continue carrying the mavi. Says the Gemara, Hasam Dika Gidudi. Over there we're speaking a case where there are some structural remnants on the ground below. It says 3 or 4 tefachim in height, which make it very difficult, impede the traffic. They don't allow for convenient passage through that breach. And therefore, all agree that unless it's so big and wide, it's greater than 10 amis, in which case it's mabatal the mechitza, then it's fine because it's not going to be used as an access route. Hachat like gedudi, as opposed to our case, where there are no gedudi present which impede traffic. And therefore, I maintain, Rav Huna says, I maintain, as long as you create a new Pesach in this mavi, that substance that takes the place of that original entranceway to the mavi renders it useless, deactivates it somewhat. And therefore, since we don't regard it as the Pesach HaMavi, the Koira and Lechi, which were placed alongside that entranceway, are rendered obsolete and useless. And they don't allow carrying throughout the mavi. So in summary, regarding a mavi which was breached, the Gemara tells us one can no longer carry this mavi. We have 4 cases. A case where there are baki barabim, where the public is actually going through this opening, through this gap. The Gemara says all agree that if this opening, this gap is merely 4 tefachim in width, which is considered to be a proper doorway, this mavi is now possible. You can no longer carry this mavi. As we explained, since there's an alternate route out of the mavi, this negates the original entranceway and negates the lechi v'kura that are present there. The Gemara tells us likewise, if there are gedudi, these structural remnants which impede the passage way through this opening, all agree that a mere tfachim doesn't do any harm. It's only a problem when the gap is so large, greater than 10 amis, in which case it negates the actual din of the mechitza. The machlokes will pertain to a case where nor this nor that is present. Lo yibaki b'rabim. The rabbim are not going through this entranceway. It's not a convenient passageway. And likewise, there are no gedudi present, which impede passage. Then we have a machlokes. Rav Huna says, if it's 4 tfachim, then you can no longer carry in the mavi. Rav Chanan bar Rabba tells us the name of Rav. As long as it's no greater than 10 amis, you're okay. The Gemara tells us as well, when the breach was applied to a keren zavis, the corner of the mavi, all agree that's not a place to make a doorway. So if this breach is 4 tfachim in size, one can no longer carry in the mavi. Continues the Gemara. Taner Rabban, and we learned in the Brayso. Ketzad ma'arvin derech rishus rabim. How can one adjust a public thoroughfare rishus rabim to allow carrying within it? Let's take a look at Rashi inside. It describes for us, gives us the requirements of rishus rabim. What exactly is it? 8 lines from the bottom. It says Rashi, rishus rabim mashma rochav sheishes ri'ama. Apparently we're speaking about rishus rabim, which contains the following 3 elements. Number 1, it's 16 amas wide. Number 2, it's in a city, a city which has 60,000 people that make use of this street. And there's no wall surrounding the city, because otherwise it would be a contained area. Oy, the Russian is gurs the word oy. So either it has no wall, or even if it has a wall, the street within it can still be considered Rishus Harabim. In a case as follows: If the Rishus Harabim running through the city stretches from one doorway, one gateway of the Chayma, all the way to the other gateway, Shema foolish, it should be open and exposed. It should be similar to the Rishus Harabim which was present in the encampment of the Midbar, since we know the halachas of Shabbos are sourced in the Midbar. So Rishus Harabim is meant to conform in its size and configuration to the Rishus Harabim as was present in the Midbar. So we have 3 conditions. Number 1, it needs to be wide enough, 16 amis. Number 2, it needs to be accessed by 600,000 people. And either there's no chayma around the city, or even if there's a chayma, but that Rishus Harabim stretches from one doorway to the other, one entranceway, one gateway of the city to the other, in which case it's considered to be exposed to the elements outside the city. It's considered to be a unrestricted accessway, and it has the din of Rishus Harabim. So we get back to the Gemara. So the Gemara says, how do we allow carrying Rishus Harabim? Ketzad ma'arvin derech Rishus Harabim. 6 lines from the bottom. It says the Gemara as follows: Oiseh Tzuras HaPesach mikan. So he creates a Tzuras HaPesach, which is a formation of a doorway, a pole on one side, a pole on the other, and a pole going across. That is the din of a mechitza. It's considered to be like a wall, which creates that containment. So he does it on one side of the street. We're speaking about a street that's running through a city that already has 2 mechitzas, because there are the houses on both sides of the Rishus Harabim. So it already has 2 mechitzas to allow carrying within this area. So number 1, he makes a Tzuras HaPesach on one end of the Rishus Harabim. Now the area within it is considered to be contained by 3 mechitzas. So it's a Rishus Harabim min HaTorah. Now Midarabani must add something to it. He places a lechi v'kor on the other side, which makes it a full-fledged Sayachad, and even Midrabanan, one is allowed to carry within it. Chanan Yomer, it's actually a machlokes between Hisham and Basil. How one is meant to proceed. Hisham Yomer, Oisadelas Mikan, Videlas Mikan. Tzuras HaPesach is not enough. He needs to actually build a door on one side and a door on the other side, and actually use that door. So when he goes in and out of the Rishus Harabim Noyel, he must close that door. He must keep it shut. Only then is the area within it considered to be a Rishus HaYachad. You must remove the Rishus Harabim status and make it a completely contained area by placing 2 doors that actually remain closed when not in use. That's Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel Oimrim, you don't need that much. Oiseh Delas Mekan, it's enough that he makes 1 door on one side, and then proceeds to affix a lechi v'kor on the other side, and that's enough. Says the Gemara, how can one do this to Rishus Harabim to allow carrying within it? Rishus Harabim maybe arva? Can one adjust Rishus Harabim to allow carrying within it? This Rishus Harabim, which really only has 2 solid mechitzas, one cannot carry within it, according to the Shita of the Rabbanan. V'atanya, haven't learned in the Brisa. Yosser al-Kain Omer Rav Yehuda added, furthermore, Rashi explains the background, that the Brisa began with Rav Yehuda's Shita, who told us. Rav Yehuda holds that a place which is surrounded by merely two mechitzas, you have two mechitzas alongside the area, the place within it is considered Rishus HaYochid. So Rav Yehuda told us that even a street, a public thoroughfare, which has a house on either side, thereby making the place within the houses a Rishus HaYochid. How does one carry there? Says Rabbi Yehuda. For instance, if you have a bridge going from one house to the other, that allows carrying within it without any hesitation, because the bridge is considered as though it's descending, it's creating another two mechitzas, which fully enclose that area. It's called pi tikro yored v'seisen. The tip, the point of the ceiling, is viewed as though it's descending down, because when you see the ceiling here, you're faced with opposition. You see that you're going into an area, a roofed area. So we view that as though it's creating that block, that separation. The same thing on the other side. So if you have this bridge, or this upper floor which is built from one house to the other across the Surabim, that place inside is fully surrounded and contained, and one can carry within it even the Rabbanim. So this was the first part of the Brisa. Rav Yehuda adds, you should know that one can even carry in Rosh Hashanah even without that bridge or that upper floor covering the Rosh Hashanah, even merely through a lechi v'koira, which is placed alongside the houses on both sides of Rosh Hashanah. Yasser al-Kain Omer Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda added furthermore, Misha ha'yilei shnei batim, mishnei yitzid Rosh Hashanah. So if there are two houses, one on each side of Rosh Hashanah, so you have two mechitzas, how can you carry within them? Midrabbanan, you need a lechi and koira. Oisa lechi mikan v'lechi mikan. So he places a lechi on one side of the house here, a lechi on the other side, and this allows carrying within this enclosed area. Or you can use a koira. And this allows him to carry in there without any hesitation. So this is based on Rabbi Yehuda's premise that an area which is surrounded by merely two mechitzas, such as this street, which has two houses alongside it, Min Torah is considered to be a Rishus HaYochid. Amr Lois, Rabbanan responded, no, one cannot adjust and allow carrying Rishus Rabbanan through this method. Why? Because they hold only in an area which is surrounded by three mechitzas is considered to be a Rishus HaYochid. It needs to be fully enclosed, fully on all sides. So three mechitzas make a Rishus HaYochid. Why the fourth wall doesn't need to be enclosed? Because that's a doorway, it's a passageway, it's a Pesach. But technically speaking, even when something is surrounded by three walls, we regard that area as fully enclosed, fully surrounded, fully contained. And only that is Rishus HaYochid. Therefore, a lechi, a kur, these things don't help unless it is fully surrounded by mechitzas. So you see clearly that when one's walking through a street, he can't carry, even when there's a Tzuras Pesach, when there's a lechi, a kur, these things don't help. So how can the Brisa tell us that if he places a Tzuras Pesach, a lechi, a kur, it works? According to Tanakama, and according to Beis Hillel, even just one door with a lechi, it works. We just learned these things don't work in Rosh Hashanah. Perhaps you'll say, only using this method, you can't allow carrying Rosh Hashanah. For instance, using a lechi or kur. But if you use doors, then that is considered to be a true containment of the Rosh Hashanah. So that will explain why, according to Beis Hillel, for instance, merely placing one door on one side of the street is sufficient, because you've created another mechitza there, and now the area within it is considered to be surrounded by three sides, and therefore merely placing a lechi v'kur on the other side is sufficient. Is that the case? So a doorway accomplishes the same as a mechitza? Va'amar Rabba Bar Chana Rav Yochanan. So Rabba Chana told us the name of Yochanan, and one door on one side of the Rosh Hashanah is not enough to contain the Rosh Hashanah. We need two doors. Not only two doors, but two doors that are actually functioning, that are actually generally kept closed, and are regarded as true mechitzas. As Rav Yochanan told us, Yerushalayim had 600,000 people, and the street within it was wide enough to be regarded as Rosh Hashanah. So Rav Yochanan taught us that when it comes to Yerushalayim, not for the fact that its doors would actually be shuttered at night, and therefore it is turned into Rishus HaYachid, Chayav and Olam Mishum Rishus HaRabim. If one would carry in Yerushalayim, he'd be Chayav, like carrying Rishus HaRabim. It is only because those doors were actually put to use, at least at night. They were closed and shuttered, thereby making the area within it, the city of Yerushalayim, into Rishus HaYachid. And that's why, if one carries within it, he has not done the malach of carrying Rishus HaRabim. But the Rabbanan needs to make Erev Chatzeir is fine, but it's not considered to be Rishus HaRabim. It's not a public thoroughfare, publicly unrestricted access route, because it was closed up with those doors. So it's very clear that he needs to have two doors on both sides of the street. Not only that, they need to be closed on a regular basis. So how can we say in the Brisa? According to the Tanna Kama, you have a street, you want to make it mutter betiltel, just make it Tzuras HaPesach on one side, and a lech on the other side. Basil tell us, just make a door on one side, and a lech on the other side. We see clearly that's not enough to allow carrying Rishus HaRabim. Let's take a look at Rashi. 4 lines from the top. Yerushalayim, says Rashi, Rishus HaRabim Shalah. So its main street there was Mechuvan Mishal Shar. So it stretched from one shar to the other. Umefulosh, and it was open, exposed, meaning it wasn't hindered. There were no mechitzas, which were blocking the Rishus HaRabim. V'yeshba d'risas shishim riboy, and it was accessed by 600,000 people. V'rochav sheish amma, and it was 16 amas wide. So it was considered to be a full-fledged Rishus HaRabim, if not for the fact that they would close those doors on a regular basis. If not for the fact that they would close those doors. Chayav and Oleh b'Shabbos, Rishus HaRabim. If one would carry, it would be chayav, it's Rishus HaRabim. Aval, the Ilas Dalsa, is the fact that they closed the doors. It's no longer a Rishus HaRabim, but rather it's a public courtyard. So it's Rishus HaYachid, but it's used by many people, many residents there. So with the Rabbanan, one cannot carry throughout a publicly shared courtyard. So they need to make an Eruv and Erev Chatzeros to join the residents together. As the Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to learn the Masech. Have a Carmelis, and if they had not yet made that Erev, it's considered to be a Carmelis, and one cannot carry in this area. However, there's no Chiyav in Torah. So the bottom line is, we see, in order to fashion a Rishus HaYachid from a Rishus HaRabim, to fully enclose it properly with doors that function and close. Continues the Gemara. Likewise, Ula told us regarding a difference today. Hanim avud mechuza. These gateways, these doors of mechuza. If not for the fact that the doors of these avuli are these shi'arim, the gateways to the city of mechuza, if not for the fact that the doors were actually shuttered on a regular basis, chayav and aleim mishum Rishus HaRabim. One would be chayiv if he carries through the city. It's a Rishus HaRabim. So you see that a place which is a din Rishus HaRabim cannot be considered Rishus HaYachid unless you have doors on both ends of the Rishus HaRabim, and unless those doors are closed on a regular basis. Rashi says, Mechoyzeh also had 600,000 people. So getting back to our kasha, how can we allow carrying Rishus HaRabim even when we're lacking these conditions? Amar B'Yehuda Hachi Kamer. The Brisa never meant to tell us that a publicly accessed street, an unrestricted roadway, Rishus HaRabim, can be turned into Rishus HaYachid merely employing these methods. Rather, the Brisa was speaking about an alleyway, which is merely accessing Rishus HaRabim. It's leading to Rishus HaRabim. It's a mavi hamafulosh, as we mentioned earlier. It's not the closed, contained mavi, which is surrounded with walls on 3 sides, but rather, it's a mavi hamafulosh, an open, exposed mavi, which is open on both ends of Rishus HaRabim. For instance, you have a street going here, and another street parallel, and there's the mavi, which is leading from one street to the other. That's a mavi hamafulosh, Rishus HaRabim. So that requires more than just a lechavikar, as we discussed earlier. He needs to close it up somehow. So that's what the Brisa is speaking about. We have 3 shittas in the Brisa. Tanna Kama tells us he needs to place a Tzuras HaPesach on one of those ends to break it away, to separate it from Rishus HaRabim. Tzuras HaPesach has a din of machitza, and that allows him to then place a lechavikar on the other side of that mavi. According to Chananya, it's actually machlokes b'Shammai Basil how meant to proceed. According to Beis Shammai, he must place an actual door, a functioning door on either side to extract this mavi from the Rishus HaRabim. Since the public uses this mavi to access the other Rishus HaRabim, it's so connected to Rishus HaRabim, you must extract it. You must undo that effect of the public traffic and actually place a door to restrict access, a door on each side, and block the traffic out. That's Bisham. We still say no. One door on one side is enough to create that separation, and then you just proceed with a lechikar on the other side. But the bottom line is we're not speaking about a street, we're speaking about an alleyway, which is a karmelis. It's an open-ended alleyway, which is leading on both sides of Yisravim, and the Brisa is telling us how to permit tiltul in this alleyway. Let's see the Gemara inside. This is what the Brisa is saying. How are we meant to adjust and allow carrying within the alleyways which are open to Rishus Harabim? So open on both ends. That's the shita of the Tanakam. And then we have Hanani who tells us that according to Beis Shammai you need two doors, according to Beis Hillel one door is enough. Itmar. So we learned. How does the halacha conclude? Rav Amar Tanakama. We follow the Tanakama shita. It's Tzuras HaPesach on one end of the Mavoi and Mafulish is enough. We don't need a door, or anything on the other side other than the standard Lechiyakar. Ushmol Amar Halach Chananya. We went to follow the shita of Chananya, who tells us that according to Beis Hillel, for instance, you need a delis on one side of this exposed, open-ended Mavoi. Iboyus, they asked, L'Chananya Alibu de Beis Hillel. So Chananya's version of Beis Hillel requires a delis. Does that door need to be a functioning door? Tzorach linol? Does it need to make sure that it's closed? Or ain't tzorach linol? Or is that not needed? Perhaps a swinging door is enough, since it has potential to block out that traffic. That is enough to create that separation, to unhook this alleyway from the public access of Rishus Harabim. Tashma, come and listen to the right. The Omar Vidam Shmuel, ain't tzorach linol? There's no need for him to actually shutter it. V'chein Omar Masam Shmuel, ain't tzorach linol? Does not need to close that door. Ikad Amri is another version of events. Omar of Masna. But I actually had a personal experience with such a situation, and I asked Shmuel regarding this open-ended Mavi, it's Mavi and foolish. What am I meant to do with that door? V'Amar Lini told me, V'Amar Shmuel, ain't tzorach linol. There's no need to actually close that door. So I asked the same question of Rav Anan, tzorach linol. Does he need to close that door? Or ain't tzorach linol, or not? Amar Lahu, so he told him, come take a look. Hani avuli denardo. These doorways, these entranceways of the alleyways, the open-ended alleyways in the town of Narda. So we're speaking about the Mavi Mafulish, which was open on both ends of Yisravim. The Timan ad palgayu ba'afra. That the doorway was buried halfway into the ground below, into the afra, into the earth. So this door was absolutely stuck. There's no way to close it. Nevertheless, we found Va'ayil v'nafik Mar Shmuel. And Mar Shmuel, which was Shmuel, he went in and out without hesitation. And he didn't tell him anything. He didn't comment on this phenomenon. Apparently, it is enough that there's a door there, even though it can't even be feasibly closed. Amar of Kana, you can't be right from there. Those doors were partially closed. Hanach Magufas Havai, they were partially closed. But perhaps if they were entirely open, that wouldn't be enough to create that mechitza. Continues the Gemara. So regarding those doorways in Hardok, he also Rav Nachman came. Amar, he instructed them as follows: Panyula frayu, remove the earth to allow the doors to close. Lema kasav Rav Nachman. Should we say Rav Nachman holds tzorach linol? He actually needs to close the door of that alleyway? It's more lie. No, you don't actually need to close it. But why did he need them to remove the afar? Given the ru'uyas linol, as long as it's suitable and potential to be closed, even though in actuality they're not going to be closed, that's okay. But he required them to move the afar. So at least in theory, they can be closed, and they're regarded as proper doors, which affect that separation of the Mavi from the Rishus Harabim. So in conclusion, we learned about three different types, categories of Mavi. We have the standard Mavi, Mavi Sasam, which is enclosed on three sides. In that case, a lechi or a kura is sufficient if it is placed at the entranceway of that alleyway to Rishus Harabim. What about a Mavi, which is mefulish Rishus Harabim? So it's open-ended. It's open on both ends of Rishus Harabim. We have a three-way machlekes. According to the Tanakam and the Brisa, and Rav follows the Shita, we need a Tzuras HaPesach on one side of the Mavi, and that's enough. That allows carrying the Mavi, provided he added a Lechei Kar on the other side, like a standard Mavi Sasam. Chananya tells us it's a machlokes b'Shammai and B'Hillel. According to Shammai, you need a delis on one side of the mavi and delis on the other side. And he needs to actually use that door, close it, in order to really separate that mavi from the Rishus Rabbim. According to Beis Hillel's view, and Shmuel passes like Beis Hillel, as long as he places a delis on one side, that's enough to allow carrying within it, provided he added a leche v'kara on the other side. The Gemara concluded that delis doesn't need to actually be closed, as long as it's roy lino. If theoretically can be closed, that's enough to provide that separation, to control the crowd which would like to enter this mavi. So once you're controlling the crowd, this mavi is considered to be a separate entity. It's been detached from Rishus Rabbim. That's enough to make that separation, to make that enclosure. It's regarded like a mechitza and allows carrying within it, provided he added a lechem kar on the other side. Regarding a mavi akam, this crooked, this bent mavi, how do we consider it? According to Rav, we regard it like an exposed mavi, as though it's open-ended on both sides of the Rabbim. Therefore, he needs to make an additional adjustment. In addition to the standard lechi at the entrance of the Rabbim, he needs to do something more to close off that mavi. Therefore, he makes it Tzuras HaPesach right in the middle of that mavi, right at that bend. This is in accordance with Rav Shita, of course, that holds that a mavi mefulish needs to have a Tzuras HaPesach. According to Shmuel, this mavi akam doesn't need any more than a leche v'kara because he regards it like a mavi sasam. Although one can access the other Rishus Rabbim through this mavi, but it's an indirect access. He must make a sharp turn. It's not a direct route. It's not open-ended and exposed like a typical mavi mefulish, which is a straight mavi leading from one Rishus Rabbim to the other. Therefore, according to Shmuel, it's a mavi sasam, which does not need any special attention. Continues the Gemara. How mavi akum, there was this particular type of bent mavi, the Hava ben Arda, which was in the city of Arda. So what type of mavi was it? Let's take a look at the diagram on the left side here in Rashi. It was a double bent mavi. So you have the Rishus Rabbim running over the top of the picture, and this mavi accessed the Rishus Rabbim. So it started from the Rishus Rabbim, went down, make a left, and back up. So it was a 180-degree turn back to Rishus Rabbim. So it began and ended in Rishus Rabbim. So this is another version of mavi akam, where according to Rav, we would regard it as a mavi mefulish, which needs an additional tikkun. According to Shmuel, it's a mavi sasam because it's a very indirect route from one side to the other. Therefore, it's a mavi sasam which doesn't need more than a lechi or a kaira at the entranceway to the mavi. So what happened in Arda when they had this mavi? Says the Gemara story. How mavi akam dav in Arda? The Ramolei chumei de Rav v'chumei de Shmuel. They apply the stringency of Rav, meaning they consider this to be an open-ended mavi, a mavi meflush, in which case the lechem and kaira are not sufficient. You need to add something more. So they applied the chumrah of Rav, the chumrah de Shmuel, and they also applied the chumrah of Shmuel. V'atzruchud dalses, and they required doors to be affixed to the mavi. So take a look in Rashi. We have two doors at both bends. Why do you need two doors? Tais explains because they're meant to be noticed by all the residents, the users of this mavi. So you need to place one on this side, one on that side, so all should notice the fact that we have doors there. So in any case, the Gemara tells us they covered all bases. On the one hand, they treat it like a mavi mefulish, which needs something more. But Rav, let's recall that Rav holds. What is needed by a mavi mefulish? You don't need a door. Merely a Tzuras HaPesach is sufficient. But they weren't happy with that. They added doorways. They added doors. In accordance with Shita, Shmuel holds that if we have a mavi mefulish, we need a door. The problem here is that this mavi, according to Shmuel, is not mefulish. So they covered all bases. They were machmer like Rav to treat it like a mefulish. They were machmer like Shmuel to add doors. Again, says the Gemara, Romale Chumer de Rav, they applied the Chumer of Rav to regard it like a mavi mefulish. V'chumer de Shmuel, and the stringency of Shmuel, Vatzruchot dalses, and they required doors. Chumer de Rav, Damar Terasik mefulish. They went like Rav and regarded it like a mefulish. Says the Gemara, V'amar Rav, didn't Rav himself tell us, Halacha Tanakama? The halacha follows the Tanakama Shita, that a mavi mefulish only needs a Tzuras HaPesach. Says the Gemara, Kishmuel. When it came to the adjustment, they followed Shmuel. The Amar halacha Chananya, the halacha follows Chananya, who presented the machlokes b'Shammai Beis Hillel, and according to Beis Hillel, we need a door. Says the Gemara, but according to Shmuel, there's no need to have a door. V'amar Shmuel, didn't Shmuel tell us? This crooked mavi is considered like an enclosed mavi, like a contained mavi. It doesn't need a door. So how can you do both things together? Is it mefulish like Rav? So all you need is Suras HaPesach. Is it like Shmuel? They don't need anything. Says Gemara. So they took both things. Kirav, they followed like Rav, Dama Torah mefulish, treated like an open mavi, and they did the doorways like the doors like Shmuel. Says Gemara, is that the way to approach things? Can one adopt two stringencies, one Rav and one Shmuel? For a time, you haven't learned the Brisa. Truthfully, one is meant to follow Beis Hillel Shita, that's the prevailing authority. If one chooses to follow Beis Shammai, he can do so. If he wants to follow Beis Hillel, he can do so. However, if he picks and chooses, Mikule Beis Shammai, Mikule Beis Hillel, if he chooses the leniencies of both, Rasha. Likewise, Mechurme Beis Shammai, Mechurme Beis Hillel, if he follows the stringencies of both, Olav HaKasav Omer, on him the pasuk describes as follows: the fool is going in darkness. You're choosing both stringencies, meant to be consistent. Ella iki Beis Shammai, either follow Beis Shammai's view consistently, kikoleya, nekochamreyan, follow their kula and their chumras. Iki Beis Hillel, or alternatively, you want to follow Beis Hillel, do it consistently, kikoleyan, like their leniencies, ukochamreyan, like their stringencies. So one is not meant to pick and choose both kulas or both chumras. Follow one shita consistently. So likewise in our case, why did they do it in this manner? Why did they follow on the one hand Rav, and on the one hand they followed Shmuel as well? It seems to be a contradiction. That's Tosfos. What's the problem? Just because we rule like Rav in one context, does that mean in the entire Torah we're going to follow Rav's shita? And likewise, if we follow Shmuel in one halacha, does that mean we follow him all along? So why couldn't they pick and choose? When it comes to the status of the mavi, they followed Rav. It's a mavi and foolish. When it comes to the actual practical adjustment applied to the mavi, they followed Shmuel's shita and they applied a door. Why can't you do that? So what's the Gemara's kasha? So this says because we don't find any shita that requires a door affixed to this mavi yakum. It's non-existent. Because according to Rav, it's Suras HaPesach sufficient. According to Shmuel, you don't need anything. So how could they proceed in such a peculiar way, which seems to be self-contradictory? They did something which nobody agrees with, not Rav nor Shmuel. Then we'll proceed and explain to us that nevertheless there was no problem, because these two things are not contradictory. They're not sasri adadi. They're unrelated. And therefore, there was no concern with the fact that they followed both routes. We'll see that Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. The Gemara analyzes the Brisa and concludes with that pshat. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. We began discussing a mavi shenifratz. So the mavi whose wall is breached. We have several categories. If it is a breach in which the Rab Mabaki, the public, uses that accessway, then as long as that gap is merely 4 tefachim, which is considered to be a din Pesach, that negates the status of the mavi, because that takes over. It becomes an alternate route out of the mavi, and therefore it negates somewhat the grand entranceway to the mavi, renders it somewhat useless, and the kura above it is rendered obsolete. The Gemara tells us all agree, if there are gedudi present, these structural remnants, by that gap which inhibit the passage through that opening, all agree, since it's not a convenient route, there's no concern here, unless that hole is so large it's greater than 10 amis, in which case the entire mechitza becomes batal. What if it's nor this nor that? The public is not really conveniently using this thing. It's leibaki b'rabim. It's not regularly accessed, and also there are no gedudi there. Then we have a machlekes. How large can that hole be? Rav Huna says up until 4 tefachim, but 4 tefachim is already too large. It's considered a pesach, which diverts traffic. Rav Chanah Barava tells us there's no concern, because even though there's a potential doorway, it's okay. It doesn't negate that initial doorway. So as long as that hole is 10 amas or less, in which case the mechitza is still considered to be halachically intact, then one can carry through the mavi. The Gemara told us if that breach was formed, the keren zavis, at the corner of the structure of the mavi, that's not a place to make a pesach. It's to be a breach, which negates the mechitza of the mavi, if that breach is 4 tefachim in size. We learned about 3 categories of mavi. A mavi sasam is mutter, betilta, one can carry it as long as he creates a lechi v'kura at the entrance to Sarabim. What's a mavi sasam? A place which is enclosed on 3 sides. A mavi mefulish, which means a direct access from one Rishus Ram to the other. So it's open on both ends, there's Sarabim. We have three shittas. According to Tanakama, he needs to place the Tzuras Pesach on one side to detach it from Sarabim, in addition to the Lechem Ikar on the other side. According to Beis Shammai, he needs to place two doors, two functioning doors on both sides. According to Beis Hillel, he places one door on one side. He doesn't need to actually close that door. And then he places a Lechem Ikar on the other side. What about a crooked Mavi, a bent Mavi? Rav says, we regard it as a Mavi Mefulish, as an open, unrestricted Mavi, in which case you need to place the Tzuras Pesach, in addition to Lechem Ikar. According to Shmuel, we regard it as a Mavi Sasam. We also learned, how do we make a Rishus HaYachad? According to Yehuda, two mechitzas alongside the area are sufficient to be considered Rishus HaYachad. According to Rabbanan, we need three mechitzas surrounding the area.